Hello, everyone. Welcome to Coffee Break. It's Steve Barrett. I'm the editorial director of PR Week. Really delighted to be here with Mark Truby, who's the CCO at Ford Motor Company, and lots to chat about. Mark, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing just great, Steve. Nice to see you virtually. It's been a while.
It has, yeah. And tell us a bit about that. How have you been faring in lockdown? What's your personal setup been, and how have you adapted to it? Because obviously it's been a big change for everybody.
Yeah, so just like everybody else, probably for the last 3 months, I've been largely working from home. Kind of set up the home office and try to keep the kids from screaming during conference calls. And it's been fun at times. It's been challenging. Keeping your team engaged, keeping people motivated, understanding how to check in with everybody. We've done participated in board meetings virtually and all kinds of leadership meetings. So, like all of everybody out there, I think what we discovered is we could do a lot virtually. You kind of miss the human contact, but there was some surprises in there about how effective we could be in getting things done and supporting each other and actually advancing the company's cause through communication has never been more important than it is today. So we really had to revamp a lot, revamp internal communications. We had to figure out how to, we couldn't have media drive in our cars anymore. So we couldn't have auto shows anymore. We couldn't have, there's just so much that we had to work through, and, constraints seem to breed innovation. When you have no choice but to adapt, you can get creative pretty fast. And I'm really proud of our team here, the Ford Communications team, on what we've been able to do over the past few months.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually, isn't it? Because it is the necessity of invention times like this. So we've done some interesting things. You mentioned auto shows. We were supposed to have had the first ever summer national auto show in Detroit, which sadly had to be cancelled. And it was going to be interesting to see how that played out in summer. Not that we all didn't love our trips to Detroit in the first week of January and the lovely, icy, cold weather, but it was going to be interesting to see what was going to happen. We'll have to wait presumably till next year for that. But you've done some fun things with the F-150 with a launch, and you've got another interesting one coming up with the Bronco. Tell us a bit about how you've adapted during this time to the lockdown and doing business as usual.
Oh, for sure. And you'll see I'm wearing my Bronco T-shirt just for the occasion. Yeah, so I was quite involved. In fact, wrote a column for your magazine about the thinking behind moving the Detroit Auto Show, which is, always been a January, kick off the year touchstone and the ice and snow and all of that, to June, and where the city, would be beautiful and we could do outdoor demonstrations and reveals, which would have been perfect, right, for things like F-150 and Broncos. So, it became clear that the show was going to be canceled. So the F-150, I'll start there. That's the world's best-selling vehicle. It's the largest bulk of our profit as a company. And so, we had to think, how could we do it differently? And we ended up doing a virtual reveal at the end of June in prime time. We hired Dennis Leary, who's kind of a longtime person associated, the comedian and actor, longtime person associated with F-150 to MC it. We shot it at the old Willow Run plant that used to make bombers during the war when Ford transitioned, and tried to give it a sense of place. And we actually filmed it and turned it into what we thought was a pretty entertaining 30-minute show. And we did a ton of promotion to let people know, this isn't going to be at an auto show. You're not going to be able to see it in the flesh, but you can watch it and watch this 30-minute reveal where we're really going to dive into the technology and what's changed in the truck and use the power of film and CGI and so forth. And it worked out really well. We had over 3 million people tune in. We looked at the coverage metrics versus when we've launched big vehicles at motor shows, and it did fine. We had to do virtual pre-briefings with media. Normally we would have them in and we would spend hours with them showing them the vehicle, and then on embargo, and so we had to basically do that through Zoom and other ways with the media, and the media were adapted, and they were able to sort of get all the information they needed to write their stories.
Yeah, I remember. I think I remember that I was at the show where you actually launched that vehicle, and it's been an incredible success, hasn't it? Were you gonna do that activity in Detroit? Was that the plan originally?
Yeah, we were definitely going to use Detroit to highlight both the new F-150 and new Bronco. These are probably the two biggest product launches we've had. You know, two out of the top two or three or four product launches we've had in the last 5 years. So the Detroit Auto Show was actually lining up to be perfect for us. And then so we had to sort of switch gears. So the new Bronco, we're launching a whole new family of vehicles. And there's a lot of anticipation for it. And so we actually went out to the networks and said, you know, we asked them, do you have ideas on how we could do this together? We went to Fox, we went to a number of the different networks. And it was actually Disney that came back with a really interesting proposal. And this is going to be Monday night. So if this posts on Monday, it'll be 8 p.m. On ABC, ESPN, on Hulu. We came up with a strategy to launch it across all of Disney's platforms and use their creative horsepower to help us tell the story. So again, it's just another way we think we can get a Super Bowl size audience for the reveal of the Bronco. You know, in a way that we think people are kind of now hungry to, after the past few months, to hear about a vehicle, to take them back outdoors and have some fun. So that was a learning experience, though, because we've never partnered with a Disney Creative Works in the past to launch a vehicle. And
was that like with their creative custom content unit?
Yeah, and so you know they brought in, you know, we ended up working with Jimmy Chin, who won the Oscar for Free Solo. He's sort of the director of the films. So we ended up creating a bunch of content that will air in prime time, like 3-minute doorstop across all their networks. And then we'll also obviously live online and live on Hulu. And then we'll be on Good Morning America the following morning. So we should be able to reach an audience that we've never been, you know, in terms of size and scope and impact. You know, it'll be a pretty special moment for our company. So I think a lot of this stuff, Steve, we're now thinking like, you know, some of this is so interesting that even when life returns to semi-normal and we have auto shows and the ability to do vehicle reveals, you know, a lot of these ideas I think will carry forward.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think we've done that at PR Week with our virtual events. We've taken our events virtual, and I think our events will now be a mixture of physical and virtual moving forward, because you're absolutely right. There's some great things you can do. So it really is, necessity really is the mother of invention. Tell us a bit about Ford. Also got some good reviews for transitioning production at your facilities to help out the COVID-19 effort in terms of building ventilators, etc. Tell us a bit about that and how that worked, how difficult it was, and how you communicated around it.
Yeah, so you know, it became clear we were going to have to shut down all of our factories around the world. That's almost unprecedented in the 117-year history of Ford, even world wars and other things. We've never had to do that to this extent. And then, you know, it became clear that we were getting calls from the government and hospitals and others saying, can you help? And Bill Ford and Jim Hackett, you know, our leadership said, we've got to try. So we quickly got up and running and building, you know, face masks and face shields and ventilators and respirators. And we had to figure out how to do that in a way that was safe and was socially distanced. And we had to give the UAW, we had to talk to the UAW about finding workers that would volunteer to do this and so forth. And once we had it up and running, you know, we did put quite a we did tell the world about it. You know, we were you know, we did a lot of storytelling around it, and people really kind of appreciated the through line of, you know, Ford was part of what they called the arsenal of democracy. We, you know, back in World War II, we converted many of our plants in Michigan to make bombers and tanks and so forth. And, you know, we kind of harken back to that as when the country, you know, the world is in crisis and they need a company to step forward. You know, Ford does that without asking questions and without figuring out what it's going to mean to our profit and loss right away. And, you know, it culminated, we were part of a 10-minute piece on 60 Minutes that really told the story amazingly well. And again, that interview was done, you know, remotely and everything's a little different these days, but the outpouring of appreciation we got from the public was like nothing I've seen in my career. There's just letters coming in from hospitals and just the general public, and you know, it was just a proud moment for our company because we were able to make a difference at a time when that was needed. And you know, I think it kind of reminded people who Ford really is at our core, at our heart as a company.
Yeah, and it's not easy to retool manufacturing, is it? To make something totally alien to what you're used to making. So that's a good story to tell as well. Yeah,
it's not easy, but our people are phenomenal. I mean, you know, when you think about the fact that we build a F-150 pickup we have one roll off the line about every 52 seconds. You know, we know how to make complex products and we know how to make them in volume. So once we got our minds around, we're going to do this, it was amazing, the ingenuity that sprung forth from that. And that's the story we were really trying to tell. You know, we were refashioning the fans of an F-150 cooling seat to, you know, power a respirator. And, you know, there was a lot of ingenuity and innovation. And of course that made for great stories to tell, to shine a light on our brand.
Yeah, and I think that's probably why you did so well in that Harris poll, which sort of monitored brands and how they were perceived. And interestingly, some of the same brands were positive and negative, weren't they? Like Walmart and others, whereas Ford was more on the positive side, which I guess that's part of what was driving that.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, of course we monitor our, you know, we're in the field all the time looking at reputation and what matters to our customers and what matters to the general public and how people see us. But it was quite a dramatic, you know, you could see quite easily that the public was appreciating where Ford stood. And we were on television so much, you know, Good Morning America, 60 Minutes, these, you know, really hundreds and hundreds of newspaper stories. We couldn't keep up with the requests we were getting in. And I think it made a difference. And you're right. In some cases, you know, some companies are getting it on both sides. People are really appreciating, you know, let's say what a Walmart's doing, but there's others that are asking them to do more. What we found is people really understood what the sacrifices that our employees and our team were making to make this happen and appreciated it. So that was fine.
I wanted to talk about Facebook a little bit because I remember when you did a launch on Facebook actually a few years ago, and that was an example, you know, that was way before COVID, was an example of doing a different style of vehicle launch. But obviously there's a lot of publicity at the moment about advertisers boycotting Facebook because they're not happy with the way they're monitoring that platform. I believe Ford is among those advertisers. Talk a little bit about that decision to pull off the platform for a little bit and what you're looking for from Facebook for them to rectify matters.
Yeah, I mean, we talked a lot about it. We you know, obviously we value Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and other platforms, YouTube, greatly as a way to tell our story. And we know that that's how people, you know, go out and learn about vehicles and learn about brands. So, you know, I anticipate that we'll find them valuable going forward. But, you know, like other companies, we're seeing, you know, what happens online, and we're seeing misinformation spread. We're seeing hate speech spread. You know, we had an incident this week where, you know, the Ford Foundation donates to certain causes. Ford Foundation is no longer affiliated with Ford. And you know, we spent the better part of the last 2 or 3 days trying to stamp out stories that were connecting, you know, Ford to Ford Foundation. And it was gaining all kinds of, you know, momentum on, you know, far right websites and things like that. So we feel that, and we, you know, we also feel a deep obligation to be part of the solution, you know, when it comes to social justice and some of the racial issues that are confronting, particularly the United States. So we thought it was just appropriate to pause and get into conversations with companies like Facebook and say, you know, we really want to feel satisfied that there's a plan. You know, nobody's perfect, and you can't stamp out everything. But there's a plan and an intention to, you know, eliminate hate speech, eliminate, you know, obviously fake news and destructive news from those sites, and that, you know, it's something that you know, we need. Our advertising dollars are important. We're one of the biggest advertisers out there, and you know, we feel that we're obligated to, you know, that spending power should be used to be a force of good where it can be. And so I think, you know, hopefully we'll be in a position to return to advertising on those platforms before too long. But I think we need, like other brands, we're saying we need to see a plan.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, and we're seeing brands step up like that. We're seeing sort of FedEx stepping up with the Washington Redskins issue and lots of things like that. It's really putting the talk into action. So that's good to see. Mark, great to catch up with you. Good luck with the Bronco launch, and continued good fortune.